I think it's going to be rare that Vala moves out of position far enough to actually get killed.
Well, teammate bringing Sonya back to Infernal Shrines. We're ready to head into game number 2 on Infernal Shrines.
Here we go. On the left-hand side, it's going to be teammate once more. Struggling here in the first game. But, you know, I'm not too worried about their ability to come back here in the series. Q build on the Gul'dan.
So a little riskier, but a lot of damage output.
Yes, but into an Arthas, can you really risk that being that close is what it's going to come down to.
That's a good question.
Malfurion doesn't have the supporting tools, and Zarya is going to be so focused on making sure that Sonya does well, because keep in mind, last time we saw Sonya thrive in this on this map and in this style of play, she also had a burst healer. There wasn't just an enabler with her, she has to have a burst healer as well. So now Malf needs to make up for the Gul'dan peels and heals, but Zarya is going to help the Sonya. So suddenly that Gul'dan Q build is going to help when it comes to shrine control, but Equinox should be able to get a lot of Howling Blast like that. But that damage output was pretty huge.
And once again, I've heard a lot about this double full support that has been happening a lot in North America.
It's not just North America. I've heard it's, we saw a bit of it in the Europe already in HGC.
That's true.
But I've also, heard tales from some of my friends on some of the teams there that it's not just the teams we saw today. It is a thing, and it's going to be here to stay for some time. Anytime macro game is removed, like with the globals, I think it is going to really be able to thrive, especially on maps where it's not possible to abuse global macro play. Like Cursed Hall is one you can get away with it. Infernal Shrines is actually one you can as well, but not as easily as other maps in the game. But typically ones like Sky Temple's a prime one where you can't split push strategy to win the game. It's all about, can you win the fight? And it's really hard to take on double supports and double warriors.
Yeah, you would think that you would lose a lot out on damage, but as long as we see Fan, who I feel like is one of the best Valas in all of NA HGC, you can see how aggressive he plays when he knows, he changes up how aggressive he is depending on the composition he has. Somebody like Caterpillar does the same thing. So it's up to him to make sure that he is getting the hope that's necessary to keep Ariel healing throughout the game.
And originally I was skeptical as well, looking at Gale Force Draft with how much frontline the Tyrael Arthas that they have together. But now locking in that Ariel and having that double support makes them amazing when it comes to sustaining the single damage output of the Gul'dan and the AoE poke that he provides. But it's going to make Glaurung that much more successful. Nobody's going to actually have enough damage to push him away, especially post 13.
Oh yeah, the later this goes, the scarier Glaurung will be. But for now, he's taking quite a bit of damage. Justine's going to once again use that shield wall going back into parry build. Howling Blast, Equinox, Rex, Sonya.
But look at all that poison damage going out. The root does land, but nobody's going to fall down here. 20 skeletal defenders for Gale Force. Catching up is going to be Team 8, even being a man down, but with the health bars of GFE being so low. They're banking on the Ariel to set him up, and it looks like it is going to be working out here. Initiation happens here. Glaurung goes in as well. Can't help but feel like a rather optimistic initiation, but no counter engage because Equinox is completely out of mana.
Glaurung has to get back now too, especially because the Punisher is popping his head out of the shrine, getting ready to say hello to the members of Team 8. This will be an Arcane Punisher, but the first of the game, so it is rather weak, and as such, Gale Force is sending one person at least up to soak in the top lane and match Sonya's soaking there.
This is interesting to see how this plays out. Again, as you said, I think as this moves to the later parts of the game, that Gul'dan should be able to have a high enough damage output with the Sonya to be a problem, but then it hits 16, and then
Lucio.
It changes, and then it's Lucio. So,
and Ariel too.
Yeah, I mean,
because she's probably going to get Reservoir of Hope.
Yeah, both of them are going to have an extreme amount of AoE supporting into the Gul'dan.
Yeah.
This is it's a bit of a problem. That we're gonna see if Team 8 can figure out, or either one of these teams in this matchup, because both of them have slightly different compositions. Team 8 playing the more old meta, if you will. I don't feel confident saying that the double warrior, double support is going to be the meta, but it surely has gained some traction.
Yeah, it's almost like Team 8 has this specific spike, and then Gale Force will jump in. So there's a limited amount of time for teammate to make it happen. But we'll have to see. I'm really excited to get into the late game. So far, it's been fairly even. Yes, Gale Force got the first Punisher of the game, but no serious structural damage was completed. And teammate showing why, yet another reason why it's great to draft Sonya. She is able to pick up mercenary camps by herself, go into the jungle and do that. And that leaves more people out to defend versus any pushing that Gale Force Esports wants to get done.
I'm really looking forward to the next Shrine phase. That is where, you know, most of the time on this map, unless you do have, again, that global or a heavy siege, which North America has neglected siege compositions for some time. You don't really see much mid-tier, or mid-objective play. A lot of it's going to be the focus onto that. And now we get to see a little bit more of Rise out of Gul'dan, hitting that 7 spike, you know, having the less survivability but higher damage output. Suddenly those Qs hit that much harder. Not as much as post 16 because, you know, he starts to chunk there as well. But this is where I feel like Q build suddenly is justified over E build, hitting at the 7 spike.
Yeah, 16 is really where his Hellfire gets especially rampant. Starts ripping through health bars of opponents. But again, lots of area healing for Gale Force, so wondering how that will play out. The next Shrine, though, once again, having Equinox and Arthas sit on top of the Shrine is so nice for Gale Force Esports. It's a hard way for teammate to try to push in to the Shrine, and especially with Ariel too, there are so many places where Detainment Strike can all of a sudden be a disaster for teammates.
Yeah, that was a really good follow-up Q there from Mike Udall. The stun lands on the Glarong, Howling Blast. Udall goes in as well, but it might end up costing him a life. A lot of damage, but Ariel there, crowing, clutching it out with the heals. And it looks like this might be another skeleton defender. Oh, goes down, and that is going to be the Punisher here, but Gale Force is not done.
Oh, that Howling Blast, Detainment Strike, 2 kills just as the Punisher spawns, and that is going to be way more getting done for Gale Force now. Justin's going to bait this out, uses his shield wall to protect versus some of that damage, but Gale Force are starting to push in. They want to force.
That mobility there from Akaface. Equinox moves up. They're going to back out for now, but it will be able to zone them up far enough that that is going to be a free fort, a 10 advantage as well. I'm surprised Tyrael backed out here. This is a moment where I would like to see Gale Force sidewall and just all in with the 10 advantage. They could even maybe net a keep off of that, but the fact that they waited, they even dropped the Syndra. Tyrael's moving. It's a very slow rotation. They finally figured out what they wanted to make happen here, but again, it's a couple seconds, maybe more than a couple. It's a significant amount of time, way too late here. Even with the Syndra going down, it's a pretty big risk.
Yeah, the Punisher is all but taken out. The forts, or the keep, still not throwing out damage. Now it is the 20 seconds ending of Syndra goes a Detainment Strike on the keep. It is Varian, so he has his sustainability to get out. The keep will go down. How much can Team 8 take out? They have heroic abilities, but the movement speed of Akaface.
Yeah, so how you actually, okay, Gale Force made a colossal mistake by not having Mike Udall there, right? Think about how many less heroics would have been needed to be used if they were as a 5-man squad. Wait a minute here.
Hang on.
Invade's gonna happen, taunt throws down, the root follow-ups there, Aegis drops.
Expulsion Zone 2. Mike gets thrown back as soon as he's out of Aegis. Has Eldrain's Might. He's going to make the miracle escape once again.
But he has no mana for Sanctification if things get hairy past this point. Good peel coming out from Fan. Drops the strafe, just saying, get off my team. And in fact, they are going to be able to walk away here. Udall is going to try and rid of the Shaman camp on top, and teammate capitalizes by looking towards the front wall.
They need to get a lot done because they have lost a keep really early into this game, and that's a frustrating point for teammate, especially being down a game already. You do not want to go down the first 2 games in a best-of-5.
All right, and so when looking at that exact point again and how it was played out, we know that Tyrael not making the rotation maybe wasn't the most optimal choice, but past that point, teammate could have punished. With so many heroics dropped to be able to make sure they got the keep itself, the minute that Tyrael makes the transition down, Glarong committed to top for some time to get the experience. Made sense. Once he knows he can trickle XP down fast enough, he could have rotated behind and then you collapse. And the heroics are used to get the keep, but then they have no heroics to take the fight past that point, but somebody has to force it. And that was Glarong's role, but instead, he went with the safer play. You know, I don't know if it's even more the safer one, but definitely it's going to be, I guess that'll be the easiest way to put it. It wasn't risking anything, because if they used their heroics and didn't get a kill, you know, it would have been looking a lot worse for team. Yoda
used Expulsion Zone 2, but it was just slightly out of range to push Equinox toward the team, buying the time for teammate to rotate in and get a kill on Arthas to kick off this Shrine phase. So now all the members of Gale Force Esports still alive, still looking to get their 13 talents before trying to engage, so they have that advantage over Team 8. Team 8 understands this, so they move on to the Shrine immediately. They have to start winning these engagements.
And we're almost hitting a moment where I think the Gul'dan should be able to thrive, and it's not that 16 mark. Larong is almost going to hit that 13 spike as well with the life funnel. Beautiful Howling Blast, a lot of damage going on to Equinox. The taunt not going to be used yet. Sound Barrier dropped with the Sanct, a bit of a stacking, but Syndra Gosu moves right on through, ripping through the fear though. 1-for-1 trade.
But that Horrify 1-for-1, Arthas is taken out. Health bars on both sides fairly low, but it's Gale Force Esports who has the double supports, and both supports still up. Just puts their health bars right back to full, and Gale Force can stay on the Shrine, whereas Team 8 has to go back off for a second and tap. That lets Gale Force Esports catch up with Skeletal Defenders. Yeah,
that was the exact situation that we talk about why double support can thrive, is even if you go even, they are able to restore an HP so much better than any other style composition. Taunt going out onto Ariel. Aegis is going to be used. She's not going to have the self-heal. She goes down.
Ariel taken out, and this is a huge turn for Team 8. They did not have their support here. Malfurion is still running up. I thought that would be the end for Team 8, losing their support for just getting the Warrior of Gale Force, but taking out Ariel allows Team 8 finally to get a Punisher of their own.
The not having the peel to be able to rid of all the pressure that Team 8 was able to apply, then force a poor Aegis out of Crowan, and then put him into a bad spot. And I'll get to it a little bit later. There are a lot of catapults on bottom pressuring that somebody on the side of Team 8 is going to have to respect in a couple of seconds here. It's about 4 building up, so then the Punisher leaps over the wall. Team 8 looking to move in.
They just try to win right here.
They can't win.
Get a keep.
They are desperate for this keep, though.
All right, Glaurung trying to force off some of the members of Gale Force Esports, scaring them with the sound, the sweet yelling sounds of Wrath of the Berserker. Expulsion zone to zone. This!
Syndra drops. The chase is going to be real here. The big Twilight Dream, though, hits 4, and now Udal falls. Before the Sanctification used, you can see Gale Force realizes the catapult's on the core. Let's try and buy some time. They get in the chase. Now the shielding has been removed onto the core, 92%. Gale Force is going to chase down, but I don't know if they have enough
80,
tools.
75. The core is still falling. Gale Force doing a fantastic job chasing down Team 8, not letting them back. Finally, Team 8 gets behind a gate, but look at what that time has bought Gale Force.
It's 31-27. They do end up making it back. The core will not fall, at least not yet here for Team 8. I'm amazed at the desperation and the decision-making coming out from Team 8. There is no world where an 80% on your core is a winning trade just for a keep, unless you're like 30 minutes into the game and it's your only way to open a win condition. And that is now a shaken form of Team 8. When we talked about their performance at the Western Clash, outperforming every North American team, and then now against Gale Force Esports, dropping game number 1, it does look like, it might be getting to it.
That might cost them yet another game here too. They have very limited options now to try to take this game back, to wrest it underneath their control, because Gale Force Esports can push anywhere for free. They can even just hide, and Team 8 has to fear for a backdoor. Yeah, it's just, whenever you get your opponents that low onto the core, you suddenly have in a moment where no matter how big of an advantage your opponent gets, you begin to make them question themselves, because you can feign just not even showing up in the map makes them have to send somebody back to be like, I can buy time, I can get them dismounted, I can make, I can get us a little bit of breathing room here. So even if things go sour for the next couple of minutes on GFE's side, they are very comfortable here on that 22% HP core. 16 for both teams. Shrine activating. And this Shrine is everything, because Team 8 have no keep in that lane. They have barely a core at this point.
Conveniently, though, it is spawning on bottom, and that sounds weird. Hold on a minute. Taunt goes out. Good boop there from Akaface.
Yeah, it allows Team 8 to keep control of the catapults a lot easier than if it were on top. Holy Ground, zones glowering away.
But again, Gale Force has found themselves in a position where they're worried about the macro game and just the pressure they can get outward. The pressure up on top, the camp has fallen. Equinox fell low in HP, but Crowan luckily is going to be there to restore some of that HP. Have we seen a Sanctification in this game outside of the one stack with Sound Barrier? It's just they haven't even needed the Tyrael, at least not yet.
Oh, they might need beautiful Horrify. Crowan's in a terrible position, but Sandragosa comes in.
Gets the peel there. Sound barrier gonna be dropped.
And Sanctification 2. Gale Force are trying to jump in now. Twilight Dream buys time for Team 8. 29 to 24 in Skeletal Defenders.
That Holy Ground, though, splitting and the follow-up stun from Crowan is going to net the first kill here in this team fight. So 31 Skeletal Defenders still for Team 8. Another Holy Ground splitting Team 8. Yoda is in a bad spot here, and he is going to cost him his life there as well. Udall the entire time barely having any mana, but perfectly using those Qs, setting his team up for what could be victory here with this Punisher.
There are only 3 members left for Team 8, but it is now or never. They dive in just as the Punisher is grabbed for Gale Force, and this goes from bad to worse. Now Prismaticism is in a bad spot. He'll be the next to fall. Team 8 losing 4 members of the team. A Punisher and Gale Force Esports move on to the core.
Yeah, and you know, it's really just waiting game here. There is no way that they do not end up securing this. And it all comes down to the decision that Team 8 decided to make up on that top keep.
Yes.
They knew they had more than enough time to respond. They took ages and intentionally neglected that, looking for a way to try and trade up, and that, it didn't. It cost them here a lot in this game, and debatably, honestly, the game.
Once again, Gale Force Esports win with great draft, but even more so with their decision making and the way they're able to bait Team 8 into making bad decisions.
Yeah, and again, it puts a little bit more emphasis on maybe that macro-oriented play. At least it seems like Gale Force is very comfortable focusing on that, and Team 8 a bit more stuck in their ways, if you will. You know, we saw the Medivh come out for Glorong very early on for Team 8, and we said this might be a new team. You know, we knew Glorong teams were always, what is Glorong's hero pool? How can they build around that? And it seemed like Team 8 was breaking that mold. But then as it moved on, it was like, well, it was just Medivh, and people started to figure that out. And now it kind of feels like they haven't, what's the next step, right? We see the same symptom of almost every other team that we've seen Glorong play on in the past.
Yeah, and Team 8 forewent having first pick so that they could pick the Battleground there. So that has to sting a lot to lose on that Battleground specifically. And now Gale Force Esports, though, feeling really good, up 2-0 in the series. We'll see if they can close it out after this.
Heroes of the Storm. Play free and experience the new StarCraft-themed Battlegrounds. Rated T for Teen.
Peace. It has been my life's work. Through honesty and diplomacy, there is no obstacle. There is no obstacle we can't overcome. Within each of our hearts lies a yearning for peace. Even in this odd place, I truly believe that each of us can find a way to live in harmony. As I was saying, I am Jaina Proudmoore. We don't need to fight, but if you insist, so be it.
We came to this world as exiles and outcasts, but together, we can be more. A weapon to break the chains of oppression. A bastion for the hunted and the lost. A family bound by blood and honor. And if our enemies do not give us peace, we will give them war! Victory or death! This I pledge as your war chief. Until the end of days, I live and die. For the Horde!
We questioned Gale Force Esports and how their new team, or at least their composition with Equinox playing Warrior, was going to work out. So far, it's pretty good. Stellar decision-making throughout, and they are up 2-0 over Team 8, the best team from North America at the Western Clash.
Yeah, and, you know, again, we talked about the Tyrael play. You know, Mike Udall had a really good Holy Grounds and really good splitting, but a lot of the times when we see Tyrael, we go, Sanks have to be on point. Just to give you, like, my fear of that draft, and I was like, you know, Tyrael Arthas it's really scary, especially with the Lucio on top of it. I think the lack of polished sanctification shows how insane that draft can be. The soft supporting they give across the board with the high health pools mixed with the insane amount of damage and utility. It's really hard to match, and very well done by GFE.
Equinox didn't even have to take Army of the Dead. He was able to take Summons Syndragosa, which it helped them get that early keep that put Team 8 so far behind and really made Team 8 lose the game.
That was the setup.
So close,
you know, that was the setup there. The spike down was very much the, well, nobody's going to back to rid of the 4 catapults that have kind of been stumbling across the bottom lane there.
So once again, last time Team 8 were in this position, they chose to go for a Battleground pick over first pick. Let's see if they are going to make the same decision now. No, they are not. Braxis Holdout chosen for Gale Force Esports, but this is not terrible for Team 8. It's a Battleground that, again, Team 8 have a really favorable record on.
Yeah, Team 8 and Gale Force seem to be feel very at home here, much like they did on Battlefield of Eternity. But with how Gale Force has been so calculated with their decision-making and their drafting, I do feel like, you know, much like we saw when Gale Force took on Tempo Storm, we were kind of like, this is a whole new Gale Force Esports for us. Just completely blew our, like, all expectations out the water. And, now it's just to the point where it's like, I expect them whenever they show that, like, we have put a lot of thought into this, I go, how do you beat them?
That's what Team 8 has to figure out right now. It starts with the Tassadar ban, though, from Team 8. Once again, they have been banning that hero every single game so far versus Gale Force. Do Gale Force respond with a Zarya ban, though? In the past, it's been those 2 shielders who are banned on Braxis.
Yeah, I think so. Zarya was so, like, even beyond the shielders being a thing, and oh man, they're gonna step away from it. Beyond, like, obviously the shielders have been a concern in the competitive world. Gale Force and the rest of North America have hated Zarya on Braxis. She has been so instant because there's a lot of nice chokeholds, and she also just trades off with her soft supporting. Conveniently is going to be first pick, but that hands over, you know who, over the side of Gale Force. And they don't pick him. I'm done. I'm done. I thought that was an instant Arthas.
I thought so too.
How? But now it's gonna be the Murden. I mean, I like Murden a lot. I think now that ETC has kind of been pushed away, I am suddenly way more sold on Murden. You know, we still see him very high priority in the Korean region, but not so much elsewhere. So I like him a lot. I'm just over the Arthas after Equinox is obviously shown to have really good success with him. Not what I expected here for GFE, but they've obviously done their homework. They've done their research here for this series.
They have been very Warrior focused, and I sort of thought that maybe it was because they were worried about Equinox getting the right pick. I'm not sure if that's the case or if they're trying to focus on Justing a little bit, which is not the person on Team 8 I would go after hero pool-wise.
Yeah, that is really strange now that you put it that way. If you are more putting it and concerning on focusing on counterplay of your opponents versus making up for your own compositions.
That's what I expected from Team 8. Definitely the Gul'dan.
Yeah, the Malfurion Gul'dan synergy there. You have to ban Lucio now, right? If you're Team 8. Name one reason you don't just double support into this comp. Again, on Braxis Holdout, double supporting still makes a lot of sense. Your siege potential is crippled, but your laning potential is insane.
Yeah, the 4-man.
And when you have Gul'dan with that spread, dotting, like, Lucio is the best double support. He's an amazing solo. He is the best double.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, there are several other double supports you can still have. But
he's the biggest cripple because he has the AoE healing, and then you could just Lucio Ariel again, right? It just, why not?
That seems the most terrifying of the double.
Because she's offensive enough with her enabling through stuns that I agree with you. It's a double AoE, and she has AoE burst, whereas you have kind of the trickle-in healing that Lucio can provide.
Even last game, they went for Searing Light, so she can add to some of the damage too, especially once you start getting Reservoir of Hope.
It's going to be the Morales removal, though.
Okay.
So the standard laning dominance of the solo support, Morales not going to show herself, as I conveniently almost drop all my data. So it is not going to be the solo, but again, why not go into the double? They're pulling away for now. Lucio shows himself, and then Chromie.
I wasn't expecting Chromie.
Neither was I. It is good into Gul'dan. Chromie is very good into Gul'dan because then you make every life tap a questionable life tap because one combo is enough to be able to kill you.
Even drain life.
Yeah.
Because it sits you in one position.
Yeah, and so her damage output's very high, but then into the pseudo-supporting of the Zarya and then also the cleanse potential of Malfurion. I don't look at that and I'm sold, but I don't think it's a poor choice. Obviously, Gale Force, again, has done their homework here.
We still need a solo lane hero for Team 8, probably played by Glaurung. Dahaka is a possibility. Man, this is... Then they're going to be triple warrior Gul'dan. Is that the plan?
I've seen weirder stuff. I'm more worried about the solo right now for Team 8. Yeah, like, is the Dahaka the answer? I don't think so.
Ragnaros? They're going to pick Dahaka
It's Dahaka and a Nubarak.
Ooh.
I like to see a bit more Nubarak. I think he also is a hero that is heavily risen in priority. Oh, my China. What?
It's Gale Force.
What?
They've always had the pocket zag.
What? When?
Crowin!
Like, way back forever when she was a thing?
Never count her out.
Dude, what are you talking about? I'm counting her out. What? Into a Chromie zag. It's a Chromie Zagara composition. You have double global is the only thing. You play the map the exact same way you played Braxis or BOE, but the biggest difference is I don't think you can get away with that. Like, that was kind of, honestly, a a bit of a fluke at times.
Who played? Was that Eastern Clash? Where you had the Zagara Nidus that just
I think it was
annoyed.
SPT is like the first thing that comes to my mind that ended up running it. But I don't...
They did not win with it.
They looked pretty for the first half of the game, but then suddenly team fighting happened, and then you're like, oh, we have Zagara on our team. And feels bad when it comes to the team fight presence here. The double global, I can respect where they're headed with this, but that would not be where I went with it. Especially with having Chromie, you only then crippled your team fight potential that much more, so you're banking so much on poke and then just split pressure elsewhere that I was so convinced early on. This was a brilliant draft from GFE, and it just quickly...
But if they don't want a team fight, they have Lucio to run away, and they have Gust from Falstad.
Yes.
So let's see if Gale Force Esports with the Zagara Chromie can close out this series 3-0. We're headed in to Braxis Holdout.
I thought China was the only region to bring her back from the grave, Zagara, but no, North America is going to represent it here on Braxis Holdout. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sold, but I want to be.
Yep, she will be frustrating for Glaurung to solo against in the solo lane, especially picking up in fast at level 1. Teammate over in the blue, their life is on the line in this series. They have a big weekend. They have to play not only Gale Force Esports, but Tempo Storm on Sunday. And you know Tempo Storm is watching eagerly to see if there is anything that they can exploit from Team 8.
And we also, talked about how these early games are going to be so very important because only 2 are going to be representing. Hold on here. Crowin goes for the creep, gets locked out. Mikey Dahl barrel rolls away here, but that is going to be a much needed tone setter here in this game for Team 8 getting that early pick.
Yeah, Team 8 changes up the rules. They put Dahaka in the bottom lane. Zagara went down, so Falstad is going to try to get to the bottom lane to soak versus him for now. With Zagara heading in, though, Falstad could always fly up if needed, but Team 8 doing a lot of damage to the towers here on top to try to get ahead.
An interesting thing is we've seen a bit more Feel the Heat out of Zarya's more recently. And Zarya, Feel the Heat did get changed to where she can then gain the benefit of any, you know, auto attack amplifier.
Right.
But it also works the opposite direction in the fact that she can be crippled by auto attack debuff.
Like Muradin.
Yeah, which is, I've always been a huge advocate for it. Every time we've seen her, I've been like, I like Feel the Heat. I've made a lot of comments about how much more I want to see it. I'm just surprised to see it in situations where she doesn't have an auto attack buff. And you know, traditionally on this map, we would constantly see her with that poke harassment. I love the mindset change, but it seems a little bit strange as the justification, at least so far here for North America.
Does it seem to you like maybe that tells us who the focus will be on for team fights for them? They're going to be focusing more on whoever is up front versus trying to get the poke out in the back line?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, yeah, that they feel is going to be, you know, Muradin as the target that they're going to have to be able to lock down and make sure they get those picks onto.
Or even someone who's dragged in by Dahaka as well, just making sure that whoever does become the prime target is bursted down quickly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, too. You know, with the drag, it just brings them right into the range for her to be able to proc that increased damage.
And there's so much follow-up after drag because Justin has Impale as well as Burrow Charge, which he's going to use just in the nick of time to stop Equinox from getting this top beacon. But the siege from both sides continues.
It is... North America seems to have picked up a 3-2 split on two-laned maps more frequently than we have in the past, and it seems like it's almost become the staple here. Granted, the Zagara is a bit, you know, obviously a more innovative pick, but even without those kind of weird ones, we do see teams be willing to match that up. Equinox with being the anchor there, trying to scout out the rotation. He will sniff it out. Yeah,
and the rotation is far faster from Gale Force Esports to get on the beacon, so this is going to be a good chunk of Zerg wave for Gale Force before teammate can take away this bottom beacon. So once again, just like in game number 1, Gale Force slightly always ahead with these objectives, but it's very early on here on Braxis.
And now Gale Force should want to send the Zagara and the Falset to be able to rotate out, but teammate was more successful in that 4-man, the 4-1 versus the 3-2. The Zagara Falset actually suffered into that 4 versus 3 matchup that teammate was able to make happen. So I think I would feel comfortable if I was this team, be willing to push that out. But one thing you have to consider, if both teams take out the forts for free and it's an even trade, who does that benefit in the long run? Gale Force Esports. Zagara has way more territory to play around with her creep, go in, set up the Nidus networks way more. So then it goes, actually I think it's a pretty big disadvantage that they move in this direction.
The Burrow did not stun and did not get the follow-up slow either, but it did allow Justing to body block Equinox. But sieging versus Chromie is going to be terrifying, especially for Buds. You can see just one Dragon's Breath with Dragon's Eye 2, how much damage that can do. Yes, there's Zarya shielding to help out, but still they have to play this carefully, especially because Malfurion doesn't have these fast burst heals. It's a heal over time. Yeah,
and we see, again, that teammate is more successful when it comes to their 4-man squad. It's just whether or not that is going to be okay when it comes to the Zagara post-10 and giving up that top 4 overall. This should be enough to be the siege. There it is. This is going to fall here, so 7 for both teams. Now, teammates should make the rotation up top to try and rid of the transition that everybody's making up there, but Equinox is way ahead of them. Goes in to get the body blocks onto Glorong. It's not going to last long. The dodge, it's not it. That is going to be Glorong going down. Beautiful transition for Gale Force because in about a half a second, teammate was going to do the exact same thing. So capitalizing again on very small windows.
But at least teammate stole the bottom beacon away and still has that. So they'll continue to not allow Gale Force to get too far ahead in the Zerg phase. It's really important that they can keep whatever pressure on going. And it was Dahaka, so he's already back, short respawn timers at least. And in recognizing that so many members from Gale Force were committed top to that kill, they stole away the Bruiser camp, the Raven camp from Gale Force 2. So teammate, they know that this is it. This is the last game for them. They have to win every game out from here on out. So hopefully they had a motivational speech, they got a snack, they got their energy.
A snack, that's the selling point?
That's what gives me energy.
I like the motivational speech. I can see it, but it's just like, guys, we can't win. I didn't get my snack in. You know, it's like I didn't get the Hot Pocket rolling. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't hit your storm bolts when you're angry.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, man. But, yeah, we're waiting more towards the 10. It's just going to be a bit of a dance on the map. We've seen the early parts here, but once the top once both of the first forts die for every team, it is more of who can out-rotate who. Because the map objective, or excuse me, the keeps are so far out past that point that nobody can go, well, you're out of position, let us get a keep, because then you're overextending to be able to get that.
But with Zagara, it's nice because she has the Nidus network to fall back to, right? If someone were to use Burrow or Flight into those risky places, then that's when you get the kill. But Zagara, Laurung is there for the drag. Burrow charge to follow up. Still, teammate are far out from being able to rotate in time, but the two warriors are enough to secure the kill.
Bug on bug, but adjusting reign supreme for now. The Nidus network still out of reach for half a level for Gale Force. I was trying to take a minute to be like, what if we are crazy and when they go Ma, but I can't see it. Like the 3 melees maybe, but I can't see the reasoning behind it. I do think it is going to be this Nidus network. Equinox going in again onto Glarung Drag, not landing. Even then, it really wouldn't have saved him, just more possible kill setup here onto Equinox. Fan takes a lot of damage.
Yeah, I always like when teams use the small advantage of having Chromie's heroic before everyone else has a heroic to try to get a kill, which is what Gale Force did. They had slowing sands. They get a kill just as both teams are about to get 10. That propels Gale Force forward to getting them faster. Nidus network for Zagara. Everything else, the normal picks over for Team 8, still deciding, but adaptation this time for Dahaka.
Makes a bit more sense here considering the composition. So now we get to see the hype train that is Zagara really in this draft. The justification only lands once we hit post 10. So will Gale Force be able to use that Nidus network properly enough to gain control of some of the shrines? And that shows a lot of the thought process behind going with, oh, the Muradin Dwarf Toss interrupted. Avatar is going to be used, but without 13, there is no way he can make it out of here. I don't think.
Buy time.
He is going to buy time. Oh, but Fan actually didn't move forward. A bit afraid to step up there.
He will once he sees a lot of the members of Team 8 rotating up to go after Falstad and Zagara, though. So Zagara gets out. Falstad should be in a position to go back. Yeah, he just backed. Chromie gets onto the bottom point, but Team 8 quickly recognizes a similar situation they found themselves in before. Gets the top beacon. We have not yet had a Zerg rush in this game.
It's amazing to think it, to see that, but a lot of it is the comps. They built around that. The triple melee with only the Gul'dan to get the siege versus, the heavy split pushing siege composition of GFE.
Still, it does feel like Gale Force are always one step ahead of Team 8. So we'll see if Team 8 can finally catch somebody out and get picks, because in theory, that's what they want. That's what they have. They've got these huge lockdown compositions, but have not so far been able to catch anybody from Gale Force, aside from the few kills they had earlier on. But as we've stabilized into the mid-game, maybe Equinox will be it. Again, Burrow Charge doesn't hit for the stun and the slow, so Equinox walks right on out thanks to the gust from Mike. Yeah,
and he goes in to try and buy a bit more time onto the percentage, so it's going to be knocked down at 76 to 24 in favor of GFE, as they still have a 3/4 level advantage. Nidus network and standard Zagara play. Crowan has done a very effective job of keeping the Dahaka in his place. Both shrines captured. The boss started, sniffed out by Akaface though. A desperation play for Team 8 might crumble here in a matter of moments, because I don't think there's any way they get this for free. They're banking on that expulsion zone.
There is no gust. There's expulsion zone and Horrify possibly too. Twilight Dream silences Muradin, but he's ready to go back in. Look at the health bars of Team 8. This is getting so scary, but a drag, a Horrify, Falstad removed.
And everybody on the right-hand side, if you look at that, that was Akaface, Fan, and Crowan here sitting solo. Justing does not make it out. Crowan gets the bailing, but that would have been a far more successful fight for GFE if the 3 squishes were not on the right-hand side. Not a single one could move up to confirm a kill, while we saw Muradin and Falstad kind of making the plays on the left-hand side of that, and it would have been a boss turnover, without a doubt, if Gale Force had all been together on the right-hand side.
But even though Gale Force lost the boss, look at what they gained. Crowan has been focusing the top lane, not only to keep Dahaka back, but because that's where the Zerg rush was going to be. Now Dahaka's in trouble, blown up by Fan, and the keep has already gone down. Gale Force, I don't know if they're picking the right moments and understanding that, hey, even if we don't get the boss, as long as we don't lose a lot here, we are delaying Team 8 from clearing out this top lane, this Zerg rush, or if Team 8 are just not quite understanding of what they're up against.
I think a bit of it comes down to not